the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Sabha Parva. Section 46, Bharata Parva. Vasampayana said, when that foremost of sacrifices, the Rajasuya so difficult of accomplishment, was completed, Vyasa surrounded by his disciples presented himself before Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira, upon beholding him quickly rose from his seat, surrounded by his brothers, and worshipped the rishi who was his grandfather, with water to wash his feet and the offer of a seat. The illustrious one having taken his seat on a costly carpet inlaid with gold, addressed King Yudhishthira the just and said, "Take thy seat." And after the king had taken his seat surrounded by his brothers, the illustrious Vyasa, truthful in speech, said, O son of Kunti, thou growest from good fortune. Thou hast obtained imperial sway so difficult of acquisition. And O perpetuator of the Kuru race, all the Kauravas have prospered in consequence of thee. O emperor, I have been duly worshipped. I desire now to go with thy leave. King Yudhishthira the just, thus addressed by the rishi of dark hue, saluted him, his grandfather, and touching his feet said, O chief of men, a doubt difficult of being dispelled, hath risen within me. O bull among regenerate ones, save thee there is none to remove it. The illustrious rishi Narada said that, as a consequence of the Rajasuya sacrifice, 3 kinds of portents, viz., celestial, atmospherical and terrestrial ones happen. O grandsire, have those portents been ended by the fall of the king of the Chedis? Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of the king, the exalted son of Parasra, the island-born Vyasa of dark hue, spoke these words, for 13 years, O king, those portents will bear mighty consequences ending in destruction, O king of kings, of all the Kshatriyas. In course of time, O bull of the Bharata race, making thee the sole cause, the assembled Kshatriyas of the world will be destroyed, O Bharata, for the sins of Duryodhana and through the might of Bhima and Arjuna. In thy dream, O king of kings, thou wilt behold towards the end of this night the blue-throated Bhav, the slayer of Tripura, ever absorbed in meditation, having the bull for his mark, drinking of the human skull, and fierce and terrible, that lord of all creatures, that god of gods, the husband of Uma, otherwise called Hara and Serv, and Vrisha, armed with the trident and the bow called Pinaka, and attired in tiger skin. And thou wilt behold Shiva, tall and white as the Kailas cliff, and seated on his bull, gazing unceasingly towards the direction, south, presided over by the king of the Pitris. Even this will be the dream thou wilt dream today, O king of kings. Do not grieve for dreaming such a dream. None can rise superior to the influence of time. Blessed be thou. I will now proceed towards the Kailas mountain. Rule thou the earth with vigilance and steadiness, patiently bearing every privation. Vasampayana continued, having said this, the illustrious and island-born Vyasa of dark hue, accompanied by his disciples ever following the dictates of the Vedas, proceeded towards Kailas. And after the grandfather had thus gone away, the king, afflicted with anxiety and grief, began to think continuously upon what the rishi hath said. And he said to himself, indeed, what the rishi hath said must come to pass. We will succeed in warding off the fates by exertion alone. Then Yudhishthira, endued with great energy, addressing all his brothers, said, Ye tigers among men, ye have heard what the island-born rishi hath told me. Having heard the words of the rishi, I have arrived at this firm resolution viz, that I should die, as I am ordained to be the cause of the destruction of all Kshatriyas. Yea, my dear ones, if time hath intended so, what need is there for me to live? Hearing these words of the king, Arjuna replied, O king, yield not thyself to this terrible depression that is destructive of reason. Mustering fortitude, O great king, do what would be beneficial. Yudhishthira then, firm in truth, thinking all the while of Dwaipayana's words, answered his brothers, thus, blessed be ye. Listen to my vow from this day. For 13 years, whatever purpose have I to live for, I shall not speak a hard word to my brothers or to any of the kings of the earth. Living under the command of my relatives, I shall practice virtue, exemplifying my vow. If I live in this way, making no distinction between my own children and others, there will be no disagreement between me and others. It is disagreement that is the cause of war in the world. Keeping war at a distance, and ever doing what is agreeable to others, evil reputation will not be mine in the world, ye bulls among men. Hearing these words of their eldest brother, the Pandavas, always engaged in doing what was agreeable to him, approved of them, and Yudhishthira the just, having pledged so, along with his brothers in the midst of that assembly, gratified his priests as also the gods with due ceremonies. And, O bull of the Bharata race, after all the monarchs had gone away, Yudhishthira along with his brothers, having performed the usual auspicious rites, accompanied by his ministers entered his own palace. And, O ruler of men, King Duryodhan and Sakuni, the son of Suvala, continued to dwell in that delightful assembly house. Thus ends the 46th section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 47, Dutta Parva continued. Vasampayana said, that bull among men, Duryodhan, continued to dwell in that assembly house of the Pandavas. And with Sakuni, the Kuru prince slowly examined the whole of that mansion, and the Kuru prince beheld in it many celestial designs, which he had never seen before in the city called after the elephant, Hastinapura. And one day King Duryodhan in going round that mansion came upon a crystal surface. And the king, from ignorance, mistaking it for a pool of water, drew up his clothes. And afterwards finding out his mistake, the king wandered about the mansion in great sorrow. And some time after, the king, mistaking a lake of crystal water adorned with lotuses of crystal petals for land, fell into it with all his clothes on. Beholding Duryodhan fallen into the lake, the mighty Bhima laughed aloud, as also the menials of the palace, and the servants, at the command of the king, soon brought him dry and handsome clothes. Beholding the plight of Duryodhan, the mighty Bhima and Arjuna and both the twins all laughed aloud. Being unused to putting up with insults, Duryodhan could not bear that laugh of theirs. Concealing his emotions, he even did not cast his looks on them. And beholding the monarch once more draw up his clothes to cross the piece of dry land which he had mistaken for water, they all laughed again. And the king some time after mistook a closed door made of crystal as open. And as he was about to pass through it, his head struck against it, and he stood with his brain reeling. And mistaking as closed another door made of crystal that was really open, the king, in attempting to open it with stretched hands, tumbled down. And coming upon another door that was really open, the king, thinking it as closed, went away from it, and, O monarch, King Duryodhan, beholding that vast wealth in the Rajasuya sacrifice, and having become the victim of those numerous errors within the assembly house, at last returned, with the leave of the Pandavas, to Hastinapura. And the heart of King Duryodhan, afflicted at sight of the prosperity of the Pandavas, became inclined to sin, as he proceeded towards his city, reflecting on all he had seen and suffered. And beholding the Pandavas happy, and all the kings of the earth paying homage to them, as also everybody, young and old, engaged in doing good unto them, and reflecting also on the splendor and prosperity of the illustrious sons of Pandu, Duryodhan, the son of Dhritarashtra, became pale. In proceeding to his city with an afflicted heart, the prince thought of nothing else but that assembly house and that unrivaled prosperity of the wise Yudhishthira. And Duryodhan, the son of Dhritarashtra, was so taken up with his thoughts then that he spoke not a word to Suvala's son, even though the latter addressed him repeatedly. And Sakuni, beholding him absent-minded, said, O Duryodhan, why art thou proceeding sighing thus? Duryodhan replied, O uncle, beholding this whole earth owning the sway of Yudhishthira in consequence of the might of the illustrious Arjuna's weapons, and beholding also that sacrifice of the son of Pritha like unto the sacrifice of Sakra himself of great glory among the celestials, I, being filled with jealousy and burning day and night, am being dried up like a shallow tank in the summer season. Behold, when Sisupala was slain by the chief of the Satwathas, there was no man to take the side of Sisupala. Consumed by the fire of the Pandav, they all forgave that offense, otherwise who is there that could forgive it? That highly improper act of grave consequence done by Vasudeva succeeded in consequence of the power of the illustrious son of Pandu. And so many monarchs also brought with them various kinds of wealth for King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, like tribute-paying Vaisyas. Beholding Yudhishthira's prosperity of such splendor, my heart burneth, afflicted with jealousy, although it behoveth me not to be jealous. Having reflected in this way, Duryodhan, as if burnt by fire, addressed the king of Gandhara again and said, I shall throw myself upon a flaming fire or swallow poison or drown myself in water. I cannot live. What man is there in the world possessed of vigor who can bear to see his foes in the enjoyment of prosperity and himself in destitution? Therefore I who bear to see that accession of prosperity and fortune in my foes am neither a woman nor one that is not a woman, neither also a man nor one that is not a man. Beholding their sovereignty over the world and vast affluence, as also that sacrifice, who is there like me that would not smart under all that? Alone I am incapable of acquiring such royal prosperity, nor do I behold allies that could help me in the matter. It is for this that I think of self-destruction. Beholding that great and serene prosperity of the son of Kunti, I regard fate as supreme and exertions fruitless. O son of Suvala, formerly I strove to compass his destruction. But baffling all my efforts he hath grown in prosperity even like the lotus from within a pool of water. It is for this that I regard fate as supreme and exertions fruitless. Behold, the sons of Dhritarashtra are decaying and the sons of Pritha are growing day by day. Beholding that prosperity of the Pandavas, and that assembly house of theirs, and those menials laughing at me, my heart burneth as if it were on fire. Therefore, O uncle, know me now as deeply grieved and filled with jealousy, and speak of it to Dhritarashtra. Thus ends the 47th section in the Dyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 48, Dyuta Parva continued. Sakuni said, O Duryodhan, thou shouldst not be jealous of Yudhishthira. The sons of Pandu are enjoying what they deserve in consequence of their own good fortune. O slayer of foes, O great king, thou couldst not destroy them by repeatedly devising numberless plans, many of which thou hadst even put to practice. Those tigers among men out of sheer luck escaped all those machinations. They have obtained Draupadi for wife, and Drupda with his sons as also Vasudeva of great prowess as allies, capable of helping them in subjugating the whole world. And O king, having inherited the paternal share of the kingdom without being deprived of it, they have grown in consequence of their own energy. What is there to make thee sorry for this? Having gratified Hutasna, Dhananjaya hath obtained the bow Gandiva, and the couple of inexhaustible quivers and many celestial weapons. With that unique bow, and by the strength of his own arms, also he hath brought all the kings of the world under his sway. What is there to make thee sorry for this? Having saved the Asura Maya from a conflagration, Arjuna, that slayer of foes, using both his hands with equal skill, caused him to build that assembly house. And it is for this also that, commanded by Maya, those grim Rakshasas, called Kinkaras, supported that assembly house. What is there in this to make thee sorry? Thou hast said, O king, that thou art without allies. This, O Bharata, is not true. These, thy brothers are obedient to thee. Drona, of great prowess and wielding the large bow, along with his son, Radha's son Karna, the great warrior Gautama, Kripa, myself with my brothers and King Soamdatti, these are thy allies. Uniting thyself with these, conquer thou the whole of the earth. Duryodhan said, O king, with thee, as also with these great warriors, I shall subjugate the Pandavas, if it pleases thee. If I can now subjugate them, the world will be mine and all the monarchs, and that assembly house so full of wealth. Sakuni replied, Dhananjaya and Vasudeva, Bhimsena and Yudhishthira, Nakula and Sahdeva and Drupda with his sons, these cannot be vanquished in battle by even the celestials, for they are all great warriors wielding the largest bows, accomplished in weapons, and delighting in battle. But, O king, I know the means by which Yudhishthira himself may be vanquished. Listen to me and adopt it. Duryodhan said, without danger to our friends and other illustrious men, O uncle, tell me if there is any way by which I may vanquish him. Sakuni said, the son of Kunti is very fond of dice play, although he doth not know how to play. That king, if asked to play, is ill able to refuse. I am skillful at dice. There is none equal to me in this respect on earth, no, not even in the three worlds, O son of Kuru. Therefore, ask him to play at dice. Skilled at dice, I will win his kingdom, and that splendid prosperity of his for thee, O bull among men. But, O Duryodhan, represent all this unto the king Dhritarashtra. Commanded by thy father, I will win without doubt the whole of Yudhishthira's possessions. Duryodhan said, O son of Suvala, thou thyself represent properly all this to Dhritarashtra, the chief of the Kurus. I shall not be able to do so. Thus ends the 48th section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 49, Dutta Parva continued. Vasampayana said, O king, impressed with the great Rajasuya sacrifice of King Yudhishthira, Sakuni, the son of Suvala, having learned before the intentions of Duryodhan, while accompanying him in the way from the assembly house, and desirous of saying what was agreeable to him, approached Dhritarashtra endued with great wisdom, and finding the monarch deprived of his eye seated in his throne, told him these words, Know, O great king, O bull of the Bharata race, that Duryodhan, having lost color, hath become pale and emaciated and depressed and a prey to anxiety. Why dost thou not, after due inquiry, ascertain the grief that is in the heart of thy eldest son, the grief that is caused by the foe? Dhritarashtra said, Duryodhan, what is the reason of thy great affliction, O son of the Kuru race? If it is fit for me to hear it, then tell me the reason. This Sakuni here says that thou hast lost color, become pale and emaciated, and a prey to anxiety. I do not know what can be the reason of thy sorrow. This vast wealth of mine is at thy control. Thy brothers and all our relations never do anything that is disagreeable to thee. Thou wearest the best apparel and eatest the best food that is prepared with meat. The best of horse carries thee. What it is, therefore, that hath made thee pale and emaciated? Costly beds, beautiful damsels, mansions decked with excellent furniture, and sport of the delightful kind, without doubt, these all wait but at thy command, as in the case of the gods themselves. Therefore, O proud one, why dost thou grieve, O son, as if thou wert destitute? Duryodhan said, I eat and dress myself like a wretch and pass my time all the while a prey to fierce jealousy. He indeed is a man, who incapable of bearing the pride of the foe, leave wait having vanquished that foe with the desire of liberating his own subjects from the tyranny of the foe. Contentment, as also pride, O Bharata, are destructive of prosperity, and those other two qualities also, viz., compassion and fear. One who acteth under the influence of these, never obtaineth anything high. Having beheld Yudhishthira's prosperity, whatever I enjoy brings me no gratification. The prosperity of Kunti's son that is possessed of such splendor maketh me pale. Knowing the affluence of the foe and my own destitution, even though that affluence is not before me, I yet see it before me. Therefore, have I lost color and become melancholy, pale and emaciated. Yudhishthira supported 88,000 Snedka Brahmanas leading domestic lives, giving unto each of them 30 slave girls. Beside this, 1,000 other Brahmanas daily eat at his palace the best of food on golden plates. The king of Kamboj sent unto him, as tribute, innumerable skins, black, darkish, and red, of the deer Kadli, as also numberless blankets of excellent textures, and hundreds and thousands of she-elephants and 30,000 she-camels wander within the palace, for the kings of the earth brought them all as tribute to the capital of the Pandavas. And, O Lord of earth, the kings also brought unto this foremost of sacrifices heaps upon heaps of jewels and gems for the son of Kunti. Never before did I see or hear of such enormous wealth as was brought unto the sacrifice of the intelligent sons of Pandu. And, O king, beholding that enormous collection of wealth belonging to the foe, I cannot enjoy peace of mind. Hundreds of Brahmanas, supported by the grants that Yudhishthira hath given them and possessing wealth of kin, waited at the palace gate with 3,000 of millions of tribute, but were prevented by the keepers from entering the mansion. Bringing with them clarified butter in handsome kamandalas made of gold, they did not obtain admission into the palace, and Ocean, himself, brought unto him in vessels of white copper, the nectar that is generated within his waters and which is much superior to that which flowers and annual plants produce for Sakra. And Vasudeva at the conclusion of the sacrifice, having brought an excellent conch, bade the son of Pritha with sea water brought in 1,000 jars of gold, all well adorned with numerous gems. Beholding all this I became feverish with jealousy. Those jars had been taken to the eastern and the southern oceans. and they had also been taken on the shoulders of men to the western ocean, O bull among men. And, O father, although none but birds only can go to the northern region, Arjuna, having gone thither, exacted as tribute a vast quantity of wealth. There is another wonderful incident also which I will relate to thee. O listen to me. When 100,000 Brahmanas were fed, it had been arranged that to notify this act, every day conches would be blown in a chorus. But, O Bharata, I continually heard conches blown there almost repeatedly. And hearing those notes my hair stood on end. And, O great king, that palatial compound, filled with innumerable monarchs that came there as spectators, looked exceedingly handsome, like the cloudless firmament with stars. And, O king of men, the monarchs came into that sacrifice of the wise son of Pandu, bringing with them every kind of wealth. And the kings that came there became like Vaisyas, the distributors of food unto the Brahmanas that were fed. And O king, the prosperity that I beheld of Yudhishthira was such that neither the chief himself of the celestials, nor Yam or Varuna, nor the lord of the Guhayakas owned it the same. And beholding that great prosperity of the son of Pandu, my heart burneth and I cannot enjoy peace. Hearing these words of Duryodhan, Sakuni replied, Hear how thou mayest obtain this unrivaled prosperity that thou beholdest in the son of Pandu, O thou that hast truth for thy prowess. O Bharata, I am an adept at dice, superior to all in the world. I can ascertain the success or otherwise of every throw, and when to stake and when not. I have special knowledge of the game. The son of Kunti also is fond of dice playing, though he possesseth little skill in it. Summoned to play or battle, he is sure to come forward, and I will defeat him repeatedly at every throw, by practicing deception. I promise to win all that wealth of his, and thou, O Duryodhan, shalt then enjoy the same. Vasampayana continued, King Duryodhan, thus addressed by Sakuni, without allowing a moment to elapse, said unto Dhritarashtra, This Sakuni, an adept at dice, is ready to win at dice, O king, the wealth of the sons of Pandu. It behoveth thee to grant him permission to do so. Dhritarashtra replied, I always follow the counsels of Kshatta, my minister possessed of great wisdom. Having consulted with him, I will inform thee what my judgment is in respect of this affair. Endued with great foresight, he will, keeping morality before his eyes, tell us what is good and what is proper for both parties, and what should be done in this matter. Duryodhan said, If thou consultest with Kshatta, he will make thee desist. And if thou desist, O king, I will certainly kill myself, and when I am dead, O king, thou wilt become happy with Vidura. Thou wilt then enjoy the whole earth. What need hast thou with me? Vasampayana continued, Dhritarashtra, hearing these words of affliction uttered by Duryodhan from mixed feeling, himself ready to what Duryodhan had dictated, commanded his servant, saying, Let artificers be employed to erect without delay a delightful and handsome and spacious palace with 100 doors and 1,000 columns. And having brought carpenters and joiners, set ye jewels and precious stones all over the walls. And making it handsome and easy of access, report to me when everything is complete. And, O monarch, King Dhritarashtra having made this resolution for the pacification of Duryodhan, sent messengers unto Vidura for summoning him. For without taking counsel with Vidura, never did the monarch form any resolution. But as regards the matter at hand, the king, although he knew the evils of gambling, was yet attracted towards it. The intelligent Vidura, however, as soon as he heard of it, knew that the arrival of Kali was at hand. And seeing that the way to destruction was about to open, he quickly came to Dhritarashtra. And Vidura, approaching his illustrious eldest brother and bowing down unto his feet, said these words, O exalted king, I do not approve of this resolution that thou hast formed. It behoveth thee, O king, to act in such a way that no dispute may arise between thy children on account of this gambling match. Dhritarashtra replied, O Kshatta, if the gods be merciful unto us, assuredly no dispute will ever arise amongst my sons. Therefore, auspicious or otherwise, beneficial or otherwise, let this friendly challenge at dice proceed. Even this without doubt is what fate hath ordained for us. And, O son of the Bharata race, when I am near, and Drona and Bhishma and thou too, nothing evil that even fate might have ordained is likely to happen. Therefore, go thou on a car, yoking thereto horses endued with the speed of the wind, so that thou mayest reach Khandava-prastha even today and bring thou Yudhishthira with thee. And, O Vidura, I tell that even this is my resolution. Tell me nothing. I regard fate as supreme which bringeth all this. Hearing these words of Dhritarashtra and concluding that his race was doomed, Vidura in great sorrow went unto Bhishma endued with great wisdom. Thus ends the 49th section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 50, Dutta Parva continued. Janamejaya said, O thou foremost of all conversant with the Vedas, how did that game at dice take place, fraught with such evil to the cousins and through which my grandsires, the son of Pandu, were plunged into such sorrow? What kings also were present in that assembly, and who amongst them approved of the gambling match and who amongst them forbade it? O sinless one, O chief of regenerate ones, I desire thee to recite in detail all about this, which, indeed, was the cause of the destruction of the world. Soti said, thus addressed by the king, the disciple of Vyasa, endued with great energy and conversant with the entire Vedas, narrated everything that had happened. Vasampayana said, O best of the Bharatas, O great king, if thou desirest to hear, then listen to me as I narrate to thee everything again in detail. Ascertaining the opinion of Vidura, Dhritarashtra the son of Ambika, calling Duryodhan told him again in private, O son of Gandhari, have nothing to do with dice. Vidura doth not speak well of it. Possessed of great wisdom, he will never give me advice that is not for my good. I also regard what Vidura saith as exceedingly beneficial for me. Do that, O son, for I regard it all as for thy good also. Indeed, Vidura knoweth with all its mysteries the science of political morality that the illustrious and learned and wise Vrihaspati, the celestial rishi who is the spiritual guide of Vasva, had unfolded unto the wise chief of the immortals. And O son, I always accept what Vidura adviseth. O king, as the wise Uddhava is ever regarded amongst the Vrishnis, so is Vidura possessed of great intelligence esteemed as the foremost of the Kurus. Therefore, O son, have nothing to do with dice. It is evident that dice soweth dissensions. And dissensions are the ruin of the kingdom. Therefore, O son, abandon this idea of gambling. O son, thou hast obtained from us what hath been ordained. A father and a mother should give unto their son, viz., ancestral rank and possessions. Thou art educated and clever in every branch of knowledge, and hast been brought up with affection in thy paternal dwelling. Born the eldest among all thy brothers, living within thy own kingdom, why regardest thou thyself as unhappy? O thou of mighty arms, thou obtainest food and attire of the very best kind, and which is not obtainable by ordinary men. Why dost thou grieve yet? O son, O mighty armed one, ruling thy large ancestral kingdom swelling with people and wealth, thou shinest as splendidly as the chief of the celestials in heaven. Thou art possessed of wisdom. It behoveth thee to tell me what can be the root of this grief that hath made thee so melancholy. Duryodhan replied, I am a sinful wretch, O king, because I eat and dress beholding the prosperity of the foes. It hath been said that man is a wretch who is not filled with jealousy at the sight of his enemy's prosperity. O exalted one, this kind of prosperity of mine doth not gratify me. Beholding that blazing prosperity of the son of Kunti, I am very much pained. I tell thee strong must be my vitality, inasmuch as I am living even at the sight of the whole earth, owning the sway of Yudhishthira. The Nipas, the Chitrakas, the Kukuras, the Karaskaras, and the Lohajangas are living in the palace of Yudhishthira like bondsmen. The Himamvat, the ocean, the regions on the seashore, and the numberless other regions that yield jewels and gems, have all acknowledged superiority of the mansion of Yudhishthira in respect of wealth it containeth. And, O monarch, regarding me as the eldest and entitled to respect, Yudhishthira having received me respectfully, appointed me in receiving the jewels and gems that were brought as tribute. O Bharata, the limit and the like of the excellent and invaluable jewels that were brought there have not been seen. And king, my hands were fatigued in receiving that wealth. And when I was tired, they that brought those valuable articles from distant regions used to wait till I was able to resume my labor. Bringing jewels from the lake Vindu, the Asura architect Maya constructed for the Pandav, a lake-like surface made of crystal. Beholding the artificial lotuses, with which it was filled, I mistook it, O king, for water. And seeing me draw up my clothes while about to cross it, Vrikodra, Bhima, laughed at me, regarding me as wanting in jewels and having lost my head at the sight of the affluence of my enemy. If I had the ability, I would, O king, without the loss of a moment, slay Vrikodra for that. But, O monarch, if we endeavor to slay Bhima now, without doubt, ours will be the fate of Sisupala. O Bharata, that insult by the foe burneth me. Once again, O king, beholding a similar lake that is really full of water but which I mistook for a crystal surface, I fell into it. At that, Bhima with Arjuna once more laughed derisively, and Draupadi also accompanied by other females joined in the laughter. That paineth my heart exceedingly. My apparel having been wet, the menials at the command of the king gave me other clothes. That also is my great sorrow. And O king, hear now of another mistake that I speak of. In attempting to pass through what is exactly of the shape of a door but through which there was really no passage, I struck my forehead against stone and injured myself. The twins Nakula and Sahdeva, beholding from a distance that I was so hit at the head, came and supported me in their arms, expressing great concern for me. And Sahdeva repeatedly told me, as if with a smile, "This, O king, is the door. Go this way." And Bhimsena, laughing aloud, addressed me and said, "O son of Dhritarashtra, this is the door." And, O king, I had not even heard of the names of those gems that I saw in that mansion. And it is for these reasons that my heart so acheth. Thus ends the 50th section in the Dyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 51, Dyuta Parva continued. Duryodhan said, "Listen now, O Bharata, about all the most costly articles I saw, belonging unto the sons of Pandu, and brought one after another by the kings of the earth. Beholding that wealth of the foe, I lost my reason and scarcely knew myself. And, O Bharata, listen as I describe that wealth consisting of both manufactures and the produce of the land. The king of Cambodia gave innumerable skins of the best kind, and blankets made of wool, of the soft fur of rodents and other burrows, and of the hair of cats, all inlaid with threads of gold, and he also gave 300 horses of the Titeti and the Kalmasha species possessing noses like parrots. And he also gave 300 camels and an equal number of she-asses, all fattened with the olives and the pilasha. And innumerable Brahmanas engaged in rearing cattle and occupied in low offices for the gratification of the illustrious King Yudhishthira the just waited at the gate with 300 millions of tribute, but they were denied admission into the palace. And hundred upon hundreds of Brahmanas possessing wealth of kin and living upon the lands that Yudhishthira had given them, came there with their handsome golden kamandalas filled with clarified butter. And though they had brought such tribute, they were refused admission into the palace. And the Sudra kings that dwelt in the regions on the sea coast, brought with them, O king, 100,000s of serving girls of the Kapasika country, all of beautiful features and slender waist and luxuriant hair and decked in golden ornaments, and also many skins of the Ranku deer worthy even of Brahmanas as tribute unto King Yudhishthira. And the tribes Virmas, Paradas, Tungas, with the Kitwas who lived upon crops that depended on water from the sky or of the river, and also they who were born in regions on the seashore, in woodlands, or countries on the other side of the ocean waited at the gate, being refused permission to enter, with goats and kin and asses and camels and vegetable honey and blankets and jewels and gems of various kinds. And that great warrior King Bagdata, the brave ruler of Pragjyotisha and the mighty sovereign of the Mlekchas at the head of a large number of Yavnas waited at the gate, unable to enter, with a considerable tribute comprising of horses of the best breed and possessing the speed of the wind. And King Bagdata, beholding the concourse, had to go away from the gate, making over a number of swords with handles made of the purest ivory and well adorned with diamonds and every kind of gem. And many tribes coming from different regions, of whom some possessed 2 eyes, some 3, and some had eyes on their foreheads, and those also called Oshmikas, and Nishdas, and Romakas, some cannibals and many possessing only 1 leg, I saw, O king, standing at the gate, being refused permission to enter. And these divers rulers brought as tribute 10,000 asses of divers hues and black necks and huge bodies and great speed and much docility and celebrated all over the world. And these asses were all of goodly size and delightful color. And they were all bred on the coast of Vanku. And there were many kings that gave unto Yudhishthira much gold and silver. And having given much tribute they obtained admission into the palace of Yudhishthira. The people that came there possessing only 1 leg gave unto Yudhishthira many wild horses, some of which were as red as the cochineal and some white, and some possessing the hues of the rainbow and some looking like evening clouds, and some that were of variegated color. And they were all endued with the speed of the mind. And they also gave unto the king enough gold of superior quality. I also saw numberless Chins and Sakas and Udras and many barbarous tribes living in the woods, and many Vrishnis and Haranas, and dusky tribes of the Himamvat, and many Nipas and people residing in regions on the sea coast, waiting at the gate being refused permission to enter. And the people of Valhika gave unto him as tribute 10,000 asses, of goodly size and black necks and daily running 200 miles. And those asses were of many shapes. And they were well trained and celebrated all over the world. And possessed of symmetrical proportion and excellent color. Their skins were pleasant to the touch. And the Valhikas also presented numerous blankets of woolen texture manufactured in Chin and numerous skins of the Ranku deer, and clothes manufactured from jute, and others woven with the threads spun by insects. And they also gave thousands of other clothes not made of cotton, possessing the color of the lotus. And these were all of smooth texture. And they also gave soft sheepskins by thousands. And they also gave many sharp and long swords and scimitars, and hatchets and fine-edged battle-axes manufactured in the western countries. And having presented perfumes and jewels and gems of various kinds by thousands as tribute, they waited at the gate, being refused admission into the palace. And the Sakas and Tuktas and Tukaras and Kankas and Romakas and men with horns bringing with them as tribute numerous large elephants and 10,000 horses, and hundreds of millions of gold waited at the gate, being refused permission to enter. And the kings of the eastern countries having presented numerous valuable articles including many costly carpets and vehicles and beds, and armors of divers hues decked with jewels and gold and ivory, and weapons of various kinds, and cars of various shapes and handsome make and adorned with gold, with well-trained horses trimmed with tiger skins, and rich and variegated blankets for caprisoning elephants, and various kinds of jewels and gems, arrows long and short and various other kinds of weapons, obtained permission to enter the sacrificial palace of the illustrious Pandav. Thus ends the 51st section in the Dyuta Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 52, Dyuta Parva continued. Duryodhan said, O sinless one, listen to me as I describe that large mass of wealth consisting of various kinds of tribute presented unto Yudhishthira by the kings of the earth. They that dwell by the side of the river Saloda flowing between the mountains of Ma and Mandara, and enjoy the delicious shade of tops of the Kichka bamboo, viz., the Kashas, Ekasanas, the Arhas, the Pradaras, the Dirgavanas, the Paradas, the Kulindas, the Tanganas, and the other Tanganas, brought as tribute heaps of gold measured in dionas, jars, and raised from underneath the earth by ants, and therefore called after these creatures. The mountain tribes endued with great strength having brought as tribute numerous chamaras, long brushes, soft and black and others white as moonbeam, and sweet honey extracted from the flowers growing on the Himamvat, as also from the Mishali Champaka, and garlands of flowers brought from the region of the northern Kurus, and divers kinds of plants from the north, even from Kailas, waited with their heads bent down at the gate of King Yudhishthira, being refused permission to enter. I also beheld their numberless chiefs of the Kiretas armed with cruel weapons and ever engaged in cruel deeds, eating of fruits and roots and attired in skins, and living on the northern slopes of the Himamvat and on the mountain from behind which the sun rises, and in the region of Karusha on the sea coast and on both sides of the Lohitya mountains. And, O king, having brought with them as tribute loads upon loads of sandal and aloe, as also black aloe, and heaps upon heaps of valuable skins and gold and perfumes, and 10,000 serving girls of their own race, and many beautiful animals and birds of remote countries, and much gold of great splendor procured from mountains, the Kiretas waited at the gate, being refused permission to enter. The Karatas, the Daradas, the Devas, the Suras, the Vaimakas, the Omvaras, the Durvibhagas, the Paradas along with the Vahlikas, the Kasumiras, the Kumaras, the Gorkas, the Hansakainas, the Sivis, the Trigatas, the Yodgayas, the ruler of Madras and the Kakayas, the Amvashtas, the Koikuras, the Tarakshyas, the Vastrapas along with the Palhavas, the Vashatayas, the Moilyas along with the Kshudrakas, and the Malvas, the Pondrayas, the Kukuras, the Sakas, the Angas, the Vangas, the Punaras, the Sanavjyas, and the Gayas. These good and well-born Kshatriyas distributed into regular clans and trained to the use of arms, brought tribute unto King Yudhishthira by hundreds and thousands, and the Vangas, the Kalingas, the Magadhs, the Tamraliptas, the Supundakas, the Devlikas, the Sagrakas, the Patronas, the Saisvas, and innumerable Karna Pravaranas, who presented themselves at the gate, were told by the gatekeepers at the command of the king that if they could wait and bring good tribute they could obtain admission. Then the kings of those nations each gave 1,000 elephants furnished with tusks like unto the shafts of ploughs and decked with girdles made of gold, and covered with fine blankets and therefore, resembling the lotus in hue. And they were all darkish as rocks and always musty, and procured from the sides of the Kamyak lake, and covered with defensive armor. And they were also exceedingly patient and of the best breed. And having made these presents, those kings were permitted to enter. O king, these and many others, coming from various regions, and numberless other illustrious kings, brought jewels and gems unto this sacrifice. And Chitraratha, also the king of Kankavas, the friend of Indra, gave 400 horses gifted with the speed of the wind. And the Kandava Tamburu gladly gave 100 horses of the color of mango leaf and decked in gold. And, O thou of the Kuru race, the celebrated king of the Mlecha tribe, called the Sukaras, gave many hundreds of excellent elephants. And Virata, the king of Matsya, gave as tribute 2,000 elephants decked in gold. And King Vasudana from the kingdom of Pansu presented unto the son of Pandu 26 elephants and 2,000 horses, O king, all decked in gold and endued with speed and strength and in full vigor of youth, and divers other kinds of wealth. And Yajnasena presented unto the sons of Pandu for the sacrifice 14,000 serving girls and 10,000 serving men with their wives, many hundreds of excellent elephants, 26 cars with elephants yoked unto them, and also his whole kingdom. And Vasudeva of the Vrishni race, in order to enhance the dignity of Arjuna, gave 14,000 of excellent elephants. Indeed, Krishna is the soul of Arjuna and Arjuna is the soul of Krishna, and whatever Arjuna may say Krishna is certain to accomplish, and Krishna is capable of abandoning heaven itself for the sake of Arjuna, and Arjuna also is capable of sacrificing his life for the sake of Krishna. And the kings of Chola and Pandya, though they brought numberless jars of gold filled with fragrant sandal juice from the hills of Malaya, and loads of sandal and aloe wood from the Dadhuras hills, and many gems of great brilliancy and fine cloths inlaid with gold, did not obtain permission to enter. And the king of the Singalas gave those best of sea-born gems called the lapis lazuli, and heaps of pearls also, and hundreds of coverlets for elephants. And numberless dark-colored men with the ends of their eyes red as copper, attired in clothes decked with gems, waited at the gate with those presents. And numberless Brahmanas and Kshatriyas who had been vanquished, and Vaisyas and serving Sudras, from love of Yudhishthira, brought tribute unto the son of Pandu. And even all the Mlechchas, from love and respect, came unto Yudhishthira. and all orders of men, good, indifferent and low, belonging to numberless races, coming from diverse lands made Yudhishthira's habitation the epitome of the world. And beholding the kings of the earth to present unto the foes such excellent and valuable presents, I wished for death out of grief. And O king, I will now tell thee of the servants of the Pandavas, people for whom Yudhishthira supplieth food, both cooked and uncooked. There are 100,000 billions of mounted elephants and cavalry and 100 millions of cars and countless foot soldiers. At one place raw provisions are being measured out, at another they are being cooked, and at another place the foods are being distributed, and the notes of festivity are being heard everywhere. And amongst men of all orders I beheld not a single one in the mansion of Yudhishthira that had not food and drink and ornaments. And 88,000 of Snedka Brahmanas leading domestic lives, all supported by Yudhishthira, with 30 serving girls given unto each, gratified by the king, always pray with complacent hearts for the destruction of his foes. And 10,000 of other ascetics with vital seed drawn up, daily eat of golden plates in Yudhishthira's palace, and, O king, Yajnasni, without having eaten herself, daily seeth whether everybody, including even the deformed and the dwarfs, hath eaten or not. And, O Bharata, only two do not pay tribute unto the son of Kunti, viz., the Panchalas in consequence of their relationship by marriage, and the Andakas and Vrishnis in consequence of their friendship. Thus ends the 52nd section in the Dutta Parva of the Sabha Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.